Today we are going to discuss the Jovo framework, and I'm going to recreate an app that I built called Voice Garden at a hackathon. I'm going to build it out again on Jovo because then I'll have one single code base that I can store in a single repository, and it'll build out to both Alexa and Google Home. And I can even have platform-specific actions for Google and Alexa to do account linking and other handling of events. Step 1, finding Jovo. You can actually just type in Jovo into Google and then build Alexa skills in Google Actions, so it's jovo.tech. And then once you get there, go to the Getting Started guide, and that will give you the command prompt setup. Now, if you have Mac or Linux, then you already have a terminal, and you can just go ahead and open up a terminal and get started. If you have Windows, you're going to need to find some sort of terminal. I generally recommend cmdir. And that's a console emulator that you can use for Windows, and it worked very well before I ripped Windows off and just went straight with Linux. And if you're going to be committing to the developer role, then I recommend going with Linux. It's pretty powerful, as you'll realize with tools such as Jovo. So we will npm install this. And I already have it installed, so it should not take long. And it looks like there's actually an update for npm available, so I'll go ahead and do this real quick. Step 2 is to actually create a new project, and to test this you can just type Jovo into the command line. So once you type Jovo, it should give you a list of responses. If it gives you some error message, then it didn't actually install, so I'd go back to step 1 and try it again. Now I'm going to change directories into my project directory where I actually want to create this app that I'm going to build, and then I'm going to run this command. Now that I'm in the Jovo projects folder that I like to use to store all my Jovo projects, this is personal to you, it doesn't really matter, wherever you'd like to create it. I'm going to go Jovo, new, and then I will say, I'll call it Voice Garden. And now it's going to go ahead and set that all up for me. So now that I ls, I can see Voice Gardens there, so I'm going to go ahead and cd into that. And inside of here we can see that it's already created all of our node modules. It's given us a package.json where we'll see all of our dependencies, a README which you can open to see the general README for the Jovo framework. This is pretty much just clone the repository. So this is the repository README. Here's the actual app. You're not really going to mess with this index.js file, but inside of this app is where your app is actually going to live. And inside of there you can see our app.js. This is the main file that we're going to be editing to do both our Alexa and Google skills. Steps 3 and 4 are not super critical right now. We're going to do a couple other steps before we do those. And actually step 5 is what I like to do to run the local development server, just to test and make sure that everything is going great right now. So we'll do Jovo run. And here is our webhook. So what we can do is we can take this and we can give this to our Amazon, Alexa, and Google Home skill. And with that we'll do, oh, it looks like I don't have a module installed. So real quick, I tried to do Jovo run from one directory down. As you can see, I tried to call it in here. When I tried to call it in the app directory, it threw an error. So I had to change my directory one folder higher into Voice Garden, and then actually run Jovo from there. And that will start my server properly. So we can take this URL again, copy that, and then when we go and create our Alexa skill in Google Home app, we can input that line there. Once we get onto the Amazon developer portal, we're going to create a new skill and name the skill. I'm going to name this Jovo Voice Garden. This is going to be a custom skill. And now that we're in here, we're going to go to our invocation, and we're going to make this Voice Garden Jovo. And then we'll save it and build it. And go into the intents. Use your favorite code editor to open up the app.js file. It's nested inside of the app function, the app folder. So you'll open app.js, and then each of these are mapped to a specific intent. Now intents are like screens of your app. They're things that users want to do. So there's a hello world intent and there's a my name is intent, and these are going to map directly to the intent names of both Google Home and Amazon Alexa. Now these all caps ones, launch, this is a generic event to determine, it's determined by the actual launch screen of an app. So on Amazon Alexa it'll automatically map to the individual Amazon Alexa and Google Home to those launch events. Now because I'm doing this as a gardening app, I'm going to change this to Hello Garden. Hello Garden intent, and it'll say, Hello Garden, what's your name? Please tell me your name. Great. Please tell me and I'll make it farmer name. Make it your farmer name. And then my farmer name intent is going to say, hey, name.value, nice to meet you. Let's go back over here and let's add an intent. Let's create the intent Hello Garden. I'll copy it directly from here, that way we can make sure that we get the correct name. Then I'll create that, and I'll save the model, build the model, and now I'll create a couple sample utterances, such as hello, start, hello garden, and we'll do that again, save and build. We'll get rid of all of these. And now we need to create the intent for my farmer name is intent. So what we're going to do with that is we're going to create another intent, and it's going to be called my farmer name is intent. My name is name. And because that hasn't been created yet, it's just going to call that variable. And now I'll add that, and then we'll say name. And we'll make this one I am name, and then I'm name. Save and build again. Oh yeah, hey, and so down here it's giving us an error because our slot type is not defined. Now let's see if they have a name. So they have a Denmark, they have a US first name, which I guess I could use. Sure, we'll do a US first name. And then what that slot will do is it will look for a first name, and it will automatically do it. So there's a wildcard. So you can say any first name, and as long as it's a US first name, it will grab that and send it in. And what that is nice for, the name of this is name. So what this is going to do is once this intent gets executed, it's going to pass in that name wildcard into here because it grabs it based off of the same name. So this name is labeled name, and over here our variable is named name. If it wasn't, we would want to change it. So we could, I guess we could change the name of this if we needed to. I've done it in the past. Oh yeah, we would probably just change it on here to say something else. If we wanted a given name instead, we could also do that. Oh, apparently hyphens aren't allowed, so we could not do that. Given name. We could do that though. And then we could have that new slot somewhere. But we're not going to. So again, we will save and build. And no errors that time, which is awesome. Next step is we're going to go back to this terminal and we're going to grab that URL again. And then we're going to take that down to fulfillment, or endpoints as it's called on here. And so you could host it on Lambda, which is the smarter idea in general, and that's what I end up doing. But for right now, while we're testing locally, while we're using this terminal, which just saves us a couple steps, we're just going to make sure that it's working by running this webhook. Let's try it again. There we go. Okay, so we just had to change this to that. So now that everything's saved, we should be able to test this and it should work out fine. Let's try saying hello into our app and see if it works. Enable testing. Once we've done that, we will try talk to voice garden Jovo.
Sorry, I'm not sure about
Open
that.
voice garden Jovo.
Hello world. What's your name?
Uh-oh.
The requested skill took too long to respond.
Okay, so we got an error, and I'll do a little debug. So now I am actually going to create these language models, and because I wanted to build out both, I'm going to build both an Alexa skill and a Google Home app. So Jovo init Alexa skill, and then it'll build all that, and then we'll also say Jovo init Google action. And now we built both of those, and now we can run Jovo build, and it will produce both of those models for us. So now we have the Alexa skill and we have the Dialogflow agent all built out. And now that we've done that, let's run it again. Jovo run. So we'll get that endpoint URL, which should be the same. And once it and now let's try this one more time.
Find that skill. To find skills, go to the skills section of the Alexa app. Hello garden. What's your name?
We can already see that we're...
Hey Pat. Nice to meet you.
So now it all functions correctly now that I actually built and ran it. So we've proven it works on Alexa. Now let's try Google Home. So for Google, we need to go to Dialogflow. Again, these links are all going to be in the description. So I'll have for the Alexa Skill Developer Kit, for the Jovo tutorial on how to get started, for Dialogflow, all of that links below. So we're going to create a new whatever these guys are called, agents. We're going to create a new agent. We're going to make this one voice garden Jovo. Create you. No white spaces. Obvi. Get rid of those. Do it again. Same as before, we're going to create these intents that are going to map directly to these intent names. So we're going to have a hello garden intent. And with that, we will need to add training phrases such as hello, welcome, hello, I am here. Really just random stuff, doesn't matter. And now what we want is for this to be fulfilled on the back end, enable fulfillment. And we want to call the webhook, which we haven't actually assigned yet. So we'll save. Now we've got that first intent. Let's add a new intent. Create this intent, and now same thing, my name is name. I don't think we actually do it like that, no. And here we highlight, and then we say name, given name. So, same deal. And we'll add all of those. Boom, boom, boom. And so, because we want this to be the same name, this is currently named given name, we need to change this to say name so that our variables are the same. Again, we need to enable a webhook call for this intent. We'll save that. And now let's go down to fulfillment. We want a webhook for this, and our webhook is going to be this guy again. And then we'll save that. Great, and now let's give it a try in Google Assistant. It should be good to go, unless I missed something. Let's talk to my test app. I have multiple.
Let's get the test version of my test app.
I have a lot of test apps. This time it said good day, that's not what we want. The reason we got good day is because when we go into our intents, the default welcome intent is not currently triggered in fulfillment. So instead what it's doing is it's just picking a random answer from these array of default things. I don't care about this, go away. So instead we're going to enable a webhook for this call, and instead what's going to happen now is it's going to trigger this default launch intent, and then the default launch intent is going to say this.toIntent hello garden intent, which will automatically trigger this intent. So let's save that and try it again.
Okay, let's get the test version of my test app. Hello, Garden. What's your name?
Sweet tech.
Sorry, can you say that again?
Uh-oh, it didn't like that. Oh, right, because it's looking for actual US names. So if we say Pat,
Hey, Pat. Nice to meet you.
now we've got the correct conversation. Let's quickly summarize what we have so far. We have an app we built once. This is the Hello World version, so this is just straight out of the box. We built once in JavaScript, set a couple things up here in our command line, and then we deployed it using Jovo. And we're currently hosting it on Express, but it's a working app on Google Home and on Amazon Alexa that we can pull up on any Amazon Alexa device that's signed into our account, or Google Home device, and it'll work. The next step is to get it hosted not on the Express server, but on AWS Lambda, and we can that way take that webhook and then replace it for the current webhook onto both of these, and it'll work just fine. So let's go ahead and get that started. So this time we are going to go into AWS Lambda, and this is where we're going to store our code. Let's create a new function, and we'll author it from scratch and call it Voice Garden Jovo. Create that function. I already have this existing role of Lambda basic execution. If you don't know how to set that up, just run quick Lambda basic execution role. If you look that up, it should tell you how to create this basic execution role, and then once you go about creating that, you will have this same ability to drop down and select it. We'll create the function. It's a Node.js function, and now we need to set up some sort of trigger for this intent, and what we want to trigger it is Alexa skill kit, and now we can configure this. We don't need to, but I will. So we'll go over here, we will go back to my skills, and then you can find that skill ID right below here, and now it's copied. I can paste it, I'll add that. Next I'll go click into the Lambda function. That way I can not do the inline editor, but a zip file. So in order to use the zip file, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Voice Garden folder, and now I'm going to zip all of this stuff up. So we will just compress and call it Voice Garden. We'll create that. Now that that's created, I can upload that. And let's save this. Once that's saved, we're going to test it really quickly using the basic execution handler test up here. So let's test it. We need a template, and I want Alexa as my template. Alexa. And I just want the basic start session. I'm going to say basic start. Once I do that, I can run my test. Now let's test it. And it says it was successful, and as you can see, we got hello garden, what's your name? Perfect. We now have the function in Lambda all set up, so we just need to find the hosting endpoint. Next, we want to open up a new tab and go back to the AWS Management Console, but this time go to the API Gateway. This API Gateway is going to serve mostly for the Google Home skill, or the Google Home action, and that way we can have one endpoint which we can actually restrict all access to that through one or multiple endpoint sources and hosts, so that way we can make sure only the Alexa skill and the Google Home action are able to access that endpoint. I will create this API. Now that we have the API, let's create a method, and it'll be a post, because what this is going to say is when Google Home sends a post request to this endpoint, it's going to take this and then shoot that response over to AWS Lambda. Once we create that post, then what we want to happen is once the post happens, we want a Lambda function to get triggered, and we want that Lambda function to be Jovo voice garden. We'll save that. Great, and now let's deploy the API. Let's just make it a new stage, and we'll call this stage testing. Here's our testing endpoint, and now we have our invocation URL. Anytime something shoots a post message to this URL, it's going to trigger this post function, which is then going to trigger our AWS Lambda function, which is it's our Jovo code. So now we can take this and input it into both our Alexa Skills Kit as well as our Dialogflow application. Swap it out for what we've got in there. Bam. And then we'll do the same thing over here. And we'll test both of them.
I am unable to reach the requested skill.
Uh-oh, that's not good. Let's try it on Dialogflow and see if there's anything going wrong on the Google side.
Sure, here's the test version of my test app. Hello, Garden. Hey, Carl. Nice to meet you.
Great, so it does work on at least the Google side, but for some reason it was bugging out over here. Well, let's refresh the page, see if that has anything to do with it.
I am unable to reach the requested skill.
Maybe it's Jovo voice garden instead. It is voice garden Jovo. I wonder if I'm unable to use the API gateway and if I have to directly link the Lambda function. I'll try that. Instead of using HTTPS, we'll directly link that AWS Lambda function. We'll save that endpoint and go back to testing.
Hello, Garden. What's your name? Hey, Greg. Nice to meet you.
Wow, so now what we have our Jovo voice garden. It is no longer running on here. We can actually stop that and test it again and it will work. Because now all of our code is hosted up on AWS instead of on our local machine, which is awesome.
Hey, Hillary. Nice to meet you.
Great, so now we have that all done, and the next steps are to actually launch the app. We can launch them individually, and then on each platform, it'll get published. I can already use my phone to launch this action, and I can go into the Amazon Alexa app and I can launch this skill, and they'll both work 100% correctly for testing purposes. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I will catch you in the next tutorial.